Hey, everybody. Got the old band back together for the Christmas AMA. I got my ugly Christmas sweater on. Nice. And it's impossible for Amos to be ugly. So not even
of course. I mean, I could never be ugly in this OriginTrail swagger from Puerto Rico, right? So don't worry, we're all here representing something beautiful.
Nice. I should have made up OriginTrail ugly sweater for Christmas. I didn't even think about that. No, I'm killing myself now. But hey, well, hey everybody, it's good to see you again. It's been a while since we've done this. This was kind of like a special Christmas kind of thing we whipped up. So how's everybody doing? What's going on? How's everybody over there in Serbia and Slovenia and wherever else? You're Germany and
No, this is Croatia. And I think this is the first time we're organizing this and calling from one location, all 3-4 of us. So it's and it's also a special moment because not because of only the Christmas is coming, but also exciting things are just a few days away from us. So we're hoping to cover those in detail in this AMA. So we're glad we were able to organize this with such a short notice, the surprise Christmas AMA. Which we felt was very much needed because of the exciting things that have already happened and exciting things that are like just about to happen. And thank you guys. And we saw each other, Amos, in Puerto Rico. We had a lot of discussions. I barely managed to curb my enthusiasm not to give you too much insights into what's happening. But yeah, hoping we can spill more beans today.
Yeah, I would have loved to come, but now I have a 3-month-old and a 3.5-year-old, and it's impossible to even go to the bathroom.
Yeah, actually, I was asking you if you can come and see us in Miami.
Yeah, you're asking me. It was just crazy. It's just
perhaps the next AMA is going to be a live AMA somewhere in some location.
We spoke about that. It has to be Trinidad. It has to be Trinidad. Beaches, warm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sold. Caribbean is nice.
All right, let's kick it into some questions, guys. What do you think, huh? I'm gonna put up like the easy softball one here. I say that, but it's probably gonna be pretty long. But what's up, Branimir?
We have some weird music here in this room, so Tomaz will be the music killer. Kill the vibe.
Right. Set that mood, Is it a song about a DKG by chance?
Yeah, by chance. Does it happen to have those words in
we could use a Christmas DKG song, It was just regular
Oh,
Christmas
trust
song.
me, it's on the way.
Just making a list.
All right.
Tomaz was there in Puerto Rico when I was writing the next song. He was like, do you need any help, Amos? I have some lyrics for you.
All right, fellas, I'm going to give you just a very short, quick question. When V6, and what do you have to say about V6? This isn't going to be a short answer. Branimir's already pulling out his Bible of information, but no, a lot of people are very excited about V6. We know that it opens up a lot of potential for the network, and it seems like a lot more bandwidth for the network, and the opportunities seem to be at great scale when V6 comes. So when V6, and what should we be excited about V6?
Who wants to start?
You're in the spotlight.
All right. Yeah, best question for the start. We are very, very, very close. Let's just get right to it. So V6 is coming for Christmas. So you guys will actually see it as a new Christmas present. You will be able to run the V6 node next week.
Whoa.
So we're gonna launch the V6 first version of the V6 testnet. And it's actually going to be a period where all together we will be able to work on it and improve it vastly. First of all, just for those of you who might not know what V6 is the version 6 of OriginTrail Decentralized Network. So we really came a long way since we started, and there's tons of improvements coming. All of these improvements you can kind of fit in, let's say, 2 major buckets. There's like a lot of new features, a lot of new things you can do that you couldn't do before. And there's a lot of improvements on the old stuff. And when I say old stuff, that's really not old stuff. It's the only decentralized knowledge graph in the world so far, still like the new thing. But what I want to say is like everything that was available up until now, version 5, is going to be vastly improved. So we've actually done some measurements over the last couple of weeks. and we're seeing over 100x improvements in certain KPIs.
Wow.
Now, not to drill like into the tech and like lose maybe some people on the call, but we will be able to drill into that together. Actually, from next week, you guys will be able to see all of that. The idea there is that essentially we managed to find a way how to optimize the protocol by layering it in a different way. So there's actually a lot of changes, and the optimizations are actually we were surprised. We expected theoretically a lot, but then when you actually see it happening, it's like it blows your brain, and it's everybody's just really excited. Apart from the optimizations, the new features are going to be really awesome. It's something that is both from learnings over the use cases and everything that really OriginTrail Decentralized Knowledge Graph has supported so far. So we know better, but also there's been new things enabled that will create a vast new field for new stuff to emerge. One of which is actually interoperability with existing knowledge graphs. So going into this direction of knowledge graphs, yeah, to just give you a bit of a hint, that means, for example, that in V6, this first beta stage, we will see OriginTrail being interoperable with the Google Knowledge Graph. So we'll be able to query Google and the DKG at the same time through the same API.
Wow.
And observe that as one knowledge graph. And this is just the first.
Is Google informed?
Could be, yeah.
Come on, be honest.
Yeah.
Don't tease us like that. Come on, you gotta. This is Christmas. You gotta spill all the beans.
This is our special launch. We gotta just drop it all.
Go crazy.
Oh my God! Yeah. Come on, Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Should I sit in your lap or something?
Yeah.
So just to be clear, when you said it was going live in Christmas, we're talking testnet, not necessarily on mainnet, right?
Yes. Yeah. So let's go back to testnet. So it's important to understand how this will go. First of all, in order to go to mainnet, of course, we cannot just drop it like that. People need to get ready, update their nodes, but also the technology needs to be ready, and that's where we need everybody's help, because we've been testing it internally. It went through a very successful alpha, and now we're in the beta phase. And first beta phase, which we called beta 0, really was this internal phase of us testing it and not really throwing it out too early, so that a lot of things break in these early stages of building decentralized networks. Sometimes it's just like a minor tweak, and all of the things settle down. But like essentially, before it's ready, you don't want to release it to the public. Now, it's ready and it's going to get released next week, so you guys will be able to run nodes. And there's going to be 3 phases of this beta. First phase, actually 4, but the 3 public phases. The first public phase, beta 1, we're going to be focusing on getting the network and the data layer to basically best possible shape. That means together we will be testing it, and I'll explain in a bit how. But essentially, we will be making sure that these 2 components, which are the most important components, actually work really, really smooth and well, especially with the new support. For example, the data layer has been redesigned now to support the native W3C semantic web technologies such as RDF, Sparkle. So that comes out, you'll be able to play with that. You've seen some of that if you've been playing around with the Supercharger app. Also, apart from that, there's apart from all of these performance improvements, there's new features, things that are coming around the data layer. The network layer has also been redone, so it's vastly more optimal. And essentially, we need to test this out. And we need to test this out on a bigger network, which is a little more wild, so not so controlled as we usually do it. So we test on different cloud services. We use different setups, but oh wow, okay. Christmas, yeah.
Gonna do some change to lighting,
yeah,
if possible. Sorry, don't get yourself started.
Yeah, sure. So point being is we need to test it in a relevant real environment. Oh, Amos is following up. And so that means that the first part of the first beta 1 stage of the testnet, altogether we will be testing and improving the network and data layer, and really just running the first stage. This will be something that not only you can help on, but it will actually, we will have an incentivization backing it. So as people who running testnet nodes will be able to earn basically rewards based on their contributions, and the contributions will explain more in detail when we actually launch. But this will be very exciting, because in a way it will also be in a way not just running a node, but it will allow you to interact and test out the new features of the DKG. And in a way, the more you play with it, the bigger the chance you get a reward. So it's going to be very interesting. Incentivizes the community to do hardcore real testing, and to try and break things. So once we figure out that the things are well off, once the KPIs and all of the things on those two layers, the data layer, the network layer, are good, we go into beta 2. Beta 2 is incentivization layer. So we're going to work on all of the things that are to enable support for future features, such as we mentioned before, delegation to nodes, staking, knowledge tools, all of these knowledge tokens, wallets, marketplaces, things like that. But also there will be some improvements in the existing mechanisms, like for example litigation. There's going to be some interesting new stuff there that is a little bit too much to speak on this call, but we'll definitely share more, of course, when the code is out, and when we have the specifics ready to be shared. Point there being, this phase 2 is about making sure that once we have network and data layer fixed, we finish the blockchain decentralization layer. We make it so that we can wrap the whole thing up and basically finish all of become code complete. That's the proper term. So we're code complete, and we have beta 3 where we basically work on this, what you guys mentioned, the migration, how we go from V5 to V6. We will definitely do an exercise to update the network to see, how a testnet migrates from one to the other, and then with this we are ready to go to the mainnet. So now all of this I can unpack a million things, but what's really the coolest is that we will be able to see how the new network works right away next week. And the first thing you will be able to do is to run a node, but then also to take the new SDK and new APIs for a spin with your node at the beginning, but very soon also with a lite node. This is something I don't know if we've spoken about before.
We talked about this lite node like 2 years ago. I remember it was like, and it was about like in October. AMA, it's sad I remember this stuff, but we never heard anything beyond that about that. But.
Yeah, well, the time has come. So we'll have for the first time an OriginTrail lite node, which for people who are, well, I mean, nobody is really so knowledgeable about that because we just like invented what the lite node really is. It's different than for a blockchain. For a blockchain, if you have a full node, basically have a full copy of the blockchain. With a lite node, you have something of a subset of that, or not even like a full copy, but from a certain block up to somewhere.
Current events and stuff like that.
Yeah, in a way, like you could even consider like MetaMask kind of a lite node because it runs in your browser, that sort of thing. Well, in a very similar way, for the DKG, a lite node will be, think of it as kind of like a MetaMask for DKG. Not exactly MetaMask, but more of a in-browser node. So
user-friendly.
Yes.
Oh, in browser too. Wow.
In browser, yes. But the point is, there's a huge difference, which I think is very important to point out here. Running this lite node doesn't, from the get-go, at least it's not envisioned, contain this persistence layer. So you're not like, your node will not be able to receive published data through the network, but will be able to do a lot of very useful things for applications, such as querying the network, publishing stuff to the network. So you'll be able to use the network without necessarily having to run a full node. That means having a server, managing it and everything, but you just like turn on your browser, whatever, or you create an application which inside of it has actually a small network node. It's literally a network node. It will have an identity.
It's kind of like gateway services on demand, kind of. Like
exactly. So it's like It's basically if you want to build a Web3 application, and today you would use Web3.js to interact with Ethereum. You have a DKG.js that you will interact with the DKG, but without the need to go to something like an Infura or an external service. You go directly. You're part of the DKG, so you don't need this. And this opens up a lot of new things for the builders, which we'll also be speaking about in the beta phases. But as you can see, I can speak about a million things. I have to stop somewhere. So I want to draw the line, just like recap. We're going to have 3 public beta phases. Beta 1, we optimize on the network layer. We verify that the data layer works well, and with the new technologies that I mentioned, RDF, Sparkle, all of these cool semantic web native things. Once we're sure that everything's smooth there, before introducing the incentivization layer, because if we introduce all of it at the same time, then if something goes wrong, it's really hard to find where, what pieces are causing trouble, because you have too many. It becomes complex. So we fix, the first 2 layers, then we get the third one. We wrap everything around. We go to beta 3. We complete the migration, and we have V6 on mainnet and unlock all of this new great stuff. So that's it.
So hold on, there's a lot to unpack. You just hit like 90% of the questions in that one part. So I got to break this down a little bit for a second. Hold on.
We're done. Can we wrap up now?
So Telegram's going nuts right now over what you just said about this Google thing. And so I'm obviously going to pry into this a little bit. So first of all, what do you mean that you can tie into Google's knowledge graph and search Google, but also what would Google think about this? Would Google be accepting of something like this? Is this a value add to Google? Is this a value add to the ODN? Or is this kind of like stepping on Web 2's
This is like opening doors to a new galaxy for Google-like companies, which so far we're only able to travel in the vicinity of this Earth. So I imagine companies like Google would be happy as kite.
So what would the Google integration really mean, though? Can you explain that in layman's terms? Like give me an example why it'd be advantageous for the ODN to, search Google's graph as well.
Yeah, so from the perspective of somebody utilizing knowledge graphs, one of the key things that knowledge graphs bring is network effects. So you want to get as much data as possible and sensibly connected in some worldly sensible way, so that when you ask a question to the knowledge graph, you literally query. You do either a search query, which is like we all do that on Google, but other queries as well. Literally questions, things like you ask Siri, you ask or I don't know, Amazon, what is it called? Alexa, whatever.
Yeah, we probably turned on somebody's Alexa right now.
Yeah.
You just ordered dog food, Branimir. Thanks, buddy.
Raise heat.
Well, actually, these cool little thingies, they like query a knowledge graph back, all of them. And but Alexa queries Amazon's knowledge graph. Hey Google, Google's knowledge graph. And now think of, and all of these are able to respond in a sensible way because they have a lot of interconnected data, but they're all closed in. So every one of them is its own island. Imagine having the ability to query all of them all together. The level of network effects is then exponential on the next level, because it's more data, more interconnected. And in order to do this, you need obviously some permissionless decentralized system that Google won't give you this, because for them it's hard to integrate. Also other companies also in Web 2, not only do they not think in this way, but also that they it kind of goes against the products. Then you have to somehow reconcile. For the DKG, it makes perfect sense, because not only are you able to query all of the verifiable data that's in the decentralized knowledge graph, why not just get some additional data from Google? It's up to the user who queries this data to decide, all right, maybe I'm going to use this, maybe not, but like I'm able to. And this is all of what decentralization and Web3 is all about. It's about having the ability to choose, to pick what you want to get, to pick who you want to trust, to have the tools that are open, that you can verify all of this information, that you can do something useful for it. rather than and have this data be yours essentially, because having the ability to offer your data either as an app builder or data scientist or regular person, just keeping ownership of your data and then turning it into assets and being able to expose that to the knowledge graphs.
Wow.
And that's something that the DKG can do and makes sense.
So how do you plug into Google's knowledge graph though? Like, is that an open thing?
Guinness, I think you're being very specific. I think what's important is that Google is a Web2 company. Which is fine, but for the benefits of the audience, I think we need to be mindful that Google is a Web2 company.
Yes.
And Web2 is not about accessibility, discoverability of assets, which is all about the Web3. And OriginTrail essentially opens up doors for the type of companies like Google to tap into the metaverse space, to tap into the DeFi space, to tap into the it's not asset data knowledge assets, which essentially can be like tokenized like via NFTs or via any other standard. And as such, it's complementary to what Google does. And imagine being able to query OriginTrail via Google. And OriginTrail essentially brings the vastness, like it's like a world brain. It's like a galaxy brain of all the, and through which Google can access via your node, and you're like one neuron in this brain system. And there is no accessibility for Google unless someone builds that, the type of an OriginTrail solution, which essentially unlocks all the value that is existing and will exist in the Web3 world, also for the Web2 type of companies. And we did speak with Google representatives a week ago or so, and we introduced the whole concept. And when you see an expression on their faces, it makes a lot of sense. We can coexist. We can build something great, even when we utilize the things that we're building. So it's not a competition. It's a complementary story. And I'm sure not only Google, but other companies within the Web2 space, sensible companies, strong companies, see it that way. So it is opening doors into a whole new galaxy or galaxies which would otherwise not have been accessible. And OriginTrail, sorry. But
so we've had conversations like this in the community chat, and it's just nice to see you guys diving into these topics, because in the community chats like a year ago, we talked about OriginTrail moving into the AI space, and at the point in time, everyone was thinking OriginTrail is just supply chain. But we now know that OriginTrail is way bigger than all of those things. And what we're seeing now is OriginTrail facilitating some sort of new age, or I don't know if I'm using the right terms for this, but a form of digital symbiosis between IoT devices, not just IoT devices, but Web2 companies, allowing true decentralization to these siloed entities like Google, possibly even Twitter, all these enterprises that leverage knowledge graphs. So this is in itself never been done before. This in itself is history in the making. Right now, we're talking, seeing,
and we're all making the history here. So OriginTrail, it's not about just us as core developers building something. It's about participation. It's about inclusiveness and also neutrality. And this is why also point of example here, V6. I think it's an understatement to say next week we're going to have a testnet running, because it's so inclusive and it's a live animal. Actually, anybody will be able to run a node. Then in a very short time after the quote unquote warm up period, because we want to attract more people. It's not only about like a bunch of us doing something very cool, which is fine, but we need to attract more people into running nodes or testing the technology. And essentially, it's going to be kind of a incentivized testnet of a sort, because there are also going to be incentives, and it's important to have this inclusive approach, because this is something you don't get with the Web2 companies. You guys, anybody, and girls, of course, running nodes in the OriginTrail network can access the technology, can run nodes in a permissionless manner. We're not barring anybody. We're not selecting like nodes. Anybody can become a node. And on the other hand, it's not just the enterprise story. Of course, OriginTrail and we as core builders have been interacting with enterprises. We have helped them build and deploy solutions. Some of them like exceptional solutions already running on OriginTrail, which is for the first time ever seeing like enterprise sector being onboarded on permissionless solutions. So we need to be mindful that we're years ahead of anybody.
Yep.
No one so far has built and deployed like enterprise grade solutions for world-class companies on permissionless technology. That said, however, OriginTrail, since not that very long ago, is becoming a technology that can be used by individuals, not only in terms of getting involved into running a node, but on the other side, contributing either data or assets which are meaningful for yourself or for anybody.
In fact, if you don't mind me interrupting here, I was actually about to go into that direction where Branimir, I was about to say, we know that Loud Cloud, the open cloud is absolutely massive and supports data sets from various industries. And of course, the reason why we're able to interact with Google's knowledge graph is our RDF integration, which makes us a standard. We're able to connect with other knowledge graphs on a standard level. So we're talking about also introducing data from the open cloud onto the DKG, allowing, let's say, Google to, well, of course, they already have access to like WikiArts and whatnot, but you know what I'm saying, the expanded open Loud Cloud. Are we also going into that direction as well? Because that's where mostly the individual creators live in the semantic world. That's the lifeblood.
Yeah, so technically, any any knowledge graph based on semantic standards such as RDF will be possible to use very easily through the DKG. Whatever Wikidata is also very interesting. Such projects have been sort of the poster childs of the knowledge graph world, as they show that it's possible to do, let's say, build a kind of a joint knowledge graph, collaborative knowledge graph, and they're definitely cool and useful. However, the OriginTrail Decentralized Knowledge Graph has not just like a lot more to offer, but has one very big difference as component to it, which is not just, which is hugely important to decentralization. So it's not a centralized place hosted with controlled by somebody, but also it provides this ability to turn your data into assets and to track all of the global assets in one graph. So that means even that stuff in Wikidata and LOD Cloud, all of these existing projects, which are cool, but they're not being, there's a purpose they're not being used by enterprises for things like OriginTrail, for example, for pharma. They're very, very interesting. You can learn a lot through them. Wikidata is amazing, but it's not like the ground you build on. It's something that extends what you already have. You can use as part of the solution but the foundation needs to be different, and the foundation, many companies have already shown OriginTrail is for them. So in that sense, it's definitely compatible and is about to be connected, and with the root abilities such as discoverability, verifiability, and adding value in the context of assets that we know, all of us know in Web3. That's something that the DKG can offer also for those assets, or that actually for that data, which can become assets in the other knowledge graphs, the ones that you mentioned, for example.
Awesome.
Yeah. But you would then be
awesome
able
answer.
to query and get all, there's an identifier or a thing or an object that you're interested about. Just imagine the sheer power. We were just asking Branimir before, there's 5 billion entities in in Google's knowledge graph today. And now that's the extension you're getting with just one integration. DKG query ability, right? And then imagine that that's just one, and you can, all of the things that have that type of standard compliance, you're able to add them on. So what that does to you as well as a knowledge creator, you're able to tap into all this knowledge that's available to you and create asset out of that on your own, because you'll say, okay, this is actually cool stuff. This is something that should be packed up as an asset and have all the discoverability, verifiability, and then building out value as an asset on the DKG. And then you're the one that really creates it and starts benefiting from it. But you can draw from all these different kind of siloed knowledge graphs that exist in the world today based on the, and here's another caveat is that it can be based on your identity. So maybe there's a closed knowledge graph that you have more access to because you're a subscriber to. So your query might be different to mine because I didn't subscribe to that same knowledge graph that on the private level, right? So you'll be able to create a different type of a query, or you'll be getting a different type of response because you'll have more access than I do. And then you'll be able to pack that up again in an asset that can be valuable for you. So that's the power of knowledge graph. That's insane. And Amos noted, the excitement around V6 has been true. We're kind of evangelizing this very much so across wherever we have a chance to speak on it. But it's just because of the mere fact that it's opening up so much capabilities that before weren't possible. That it is quite literally insane.
It was just so excited. I had to cool the whole room down. I had to I had to just bring it down a level. You guys are too much.
We're not cooling down. Sorry.
Hot and her.
I didn't know, Asa, did you want to move on with some more questions, or you want to shift the topic a little bit, or
we can shift it a little bit. One of the questions someone put is, where do you see the most potential of track beyond supply chain? But I think we kind of already started touching on that, unless you want to elaborate more on that.
Just one thing about supply chains or physical world. I think what we want to establish here is understanding that what the work we are doing in supply chains is integral for the work we're doing in metaverse and the semantic Web3. Because if we are able to transition physical assets into the digital realm, we have done a lot of good work, but it does the story does not end here, of course. And one such example, of course, you've seen them many in pharma, in international trade, like companies such as Home Depot talking about us, BSI, etc. So it's a huge thing. It's a massive work being done. And Jurij here can also attest not only to the past but also to the great things that are coming. But it's very important to know that we're transitioning here from physical to digital, and story continues once we have digitalized all the physical assets, meaning we have data about them. And this is where the story gets juicier, because we're creating assets out of those digital footprints that we are created, meaning that we're opening doors for physical world to enter the metaverse, to enter the DeFi. You can collateralize against, otherwise physical asset. It's a world of possibilities here. Facebook, for example, grew based on the network effect. In a similar fashion, OriginTrail is growing and is going to grow with one very much important difference, apart from being permissionless, as opposed to Facebook, which is completely permissioned, is that Facebook's growth stopped at the total number of users. OriginTrail growth will continue as long as we're, as a humanity, capable of generating assets. And this will most likely not stop anytime soon. So we're going to see a constant growth based on the network effects. And hello to Bob Metcalf here. We just had a meeting previous week. It was a fantastic meeting. Looking forward to the next one. So once we're transitioning from supply chains or from the physical world into this digital realm, this is where the magic starts to happen. And on this timeline, we're actually already entering this space. And V6 essentially is one of the keys unlocking this potential. And it's here. It's like happening right now. And I mean, we need to go into other questions, I know, but I think there is one point which we really need to iterate. Supply chains are relevant, and they're going to remain relevant as physical world, but there is a huge synergistic effect that we're leveraging, and this is where the story really gets interesting.
Yeah, I mean, data is ever growing, right? And there's all different kinds of data out there, so you can't really even just cap it at any sort of type industry or anything like that. Wherever there's data, there's knowledge. Wherever there's knowledge, there's OriginTrail. So,
exactly. And assets.
Assets, physical items can be one type of an asset. You can have so many different types of an asset. And it's also, there's like Ziga was explaining, they are going through a transformation as well, being kind of exposed to metaverse, being exposed to all these Web3 cool concepts. Just getting different will change an understanding of what product is, because we'll have multiple components, one of which is going to be the physical one which you have at home, but there's going to be potentially others within the different realms that you have in the digital space, which will equally be the same asset, and you'll be describing it within the same knowledge graph. So it's it's definitely a growing thing, and whilst it's the foundation of supply chains and physical world is there, how we're seeing now this kind of like a vertical growth explosion that has happened. Yeah, it opens up just so much more of this different kind of. It's a growing matrix of how much more possibilities you have in terms of just describing or creating more assets.
Mm-hmm. And one of the questions was about Polkadot and parachains, and I think this really nicely kind of goes into that topic, since the V6 also introduces compatibility with parachains, not just one parachain, but with just about any parachains. And not only we met with Amos in Puerto Rico, we also met with the Akala team's leadership, and it's really cool to see that very soon, as we are entering the V6, the OriginTrail will be integrated with a parachain. And soon after that, there is also the plan in the making for OriginTrail's parachain, which is essentially expanding on the network effect whilst not waiting for the network effects to be ripped within the already existing parachain community. And what's interesting about Polkadot is that Polkadot is a relatively, it might sound weird, but it's a relatively new project, essentially newer than OriginTrail in terms of how live it is, in the sense of the real world getting onboarded. It's only like the deploying parachains right now, which is great, because it's a novel technology. But it's also important to note that as network effects are being created on Polkadot just now, as parachains deployed, OriginTrail is the first one to be also benefiting from that, from the newly created network effects. And then soon after other parachains are also deployed, there is another kind of measure where OriginTrail also reaps the network effects on Polkadot, namely and obviously OriginTrail's own parachain. Of course, I think you're all kind of curious about the details. The details will be known as we go into the new year, and as we see what kind of positioning would be most fit or like best fitted for OriginTrail's strategy for the parachain auction. But really important to understand here is that network effects created on parachains are going to be touching or tying into OriginTrail's own network effects, starting with Akala.
All right, yeah, and that was actually, it's like you're reading my questions, but
you made a nice script.
Yeah, I know, huh? Well, because the next question was about the update parachain slots and the strategy and stuff. So is it safe to say, I just want to end any speculation in the community and in guessing games. So we're probably not going to see anything until maybe at least the 10th rounds, the next batch is over, right? I mean, that's safe to say at this point, is for a parachain strategy, right?
In terms of us updating our parachain, you mean, right?
Yep, going for OriginTrail,
right.
going for their own parachain.
Right.
Yeah. So I just know there's a lot of speculation going around, and I just want to make sure people have the right, expectations. So.
I think speculations are really not necessary when it comes to OriginTrail's strategy for parachain. Once the details are out, this is when things are clear for anybody. So I would really encourage anybody to just apply their knowledge and apply their capacities to get onboarded onto the V6, because V6 is essentially in the Turing phase. V6 essentially is the most important milestone within the Turing, and without this milestone, there is no Metcalfe phase, which essentially is a network effect phase. And if you look into our roadmap, there is it states very specifically that Polkadot parachain pertains into the Metcalfe phase, and of course, V6 is a main prerequisite, and the fun is here. I mean, V6 is gonna it's a really important event for us, and we need to build both like backward compatibility with everything that has been completed so far through the V6, and of course make way for the parachain as well. And this is also kind of indicating that speculations are really not needed, because V6 has to be deployed, and it's being deployed right now.
Right.
I think that you've been pretty clear and accurate though. Even around the release of the Akala launch and whatnot. I mean, we're obtaining network effects via Akala. When they go live, they have a DKG palette integration that's about to take place, which will allow, you know, the OriginTrail ecosystem access to network effects via their parachain. So we have that initial onset of network effects, which will be further expanded upon when our parachain goes live. But the true, well, I wouldn't say the true, of course, we're excited for the OriginTrail Parachain and all those extra extensions like the cough, graph contracts. Branimir, I'm looking at you. But for in terms of the direct, exciting major boost in network effects, so I think you've been pretty clear that we're going to see a lot of that via Akala's integration. So I don't think there's a lot of room for speculation in the community. I think it was really well thought out answer. Ace, I don't know if you want to move on. You want me to take the next question?
Yeah, perhaps just one small insight into the OriginTrail's parachain strategy. Not to kind of incite like speculations, but it's very important that for those who want to be really relevant in the parachain story, OriginTrail's own parachain story, I would advise them really to kind of stay within their kind of positions of being like node runners in the V6 at the V6 stage, and also to be mindful that you know, those holding the utility token of OriginTrail, which is Trace, are going to be positioned to be like the not the masters, because that would kind of insinuate that there is a centralization, but they're going to have a say, at least in terms of the way parachain is governed. So it's an interplay of like the tokenomics where Trace has a very, very prominent spot.
Sounds
I'm
like
saying this because
tokenomics from the token.
Trace is not a new asset, and when you see new parachains coming out, these are all based on new assets only. And we need to like very, very much emphasize here that Trace is going to remain the king here.
Interesting. I look forward to
and important
forward utility of the token in that aspect. Yeah, Amos, why don't you jump around, man?
Yeah, sure. So we know for some time we've been discussing, you know, we talked about Dockerless installs and making OriginTrail more accessible. And then today we're hearing for the first time about light nodes, which is very exciting. Do you guys have anything moving into the future that makes things easier for node runners, people to, you know, of course, I think you guys did drop a little bit about being able to, you know, leverage nodes via gateway services, you know, other people's running nodes, and you're able to still use the network. But for those of us who are node runners and those of us future node runners or future Web3 data pioneers, is there anything easy coming up the pipelines for them?
Yeah, so it's there's a lot of new things coming with V6. There's a tool that we are actually using right now to monitor the performance of the node, which will also be open sourced, and you will be able to connect to your node to actually see much better than today how it operates. What are the bottlenecks, if you have any? For example, there's so much data on your node that you maybe need to increase something. Well, by now you could see that, but it was not as easy as it will soon be with V6. And there's other improvements such as that. For example, that's the first one that comes to mind. However, just so everybody's clear, it's never going to be like a 2-click run, you know, poof, node just appears and you can run it, because at minimum you need to set up a wallet. You need a couple of wallets ideally, because you want to make sure you don't rely on one and then you lose it and then all hell breaks loose. So you have to manage that, and you have to manage connection to the blockchains that your node is connected to. There's some things that just like require knowledge,
and it's a level of security of the network as well, of having people that have certain level of tech savviness that are running.
But yeah, what I'm also trying to say is like it's not possible to do like do 2 clicks and then you have
stuff you got to go through.
Yeah, it's not like Spotify, you know. It's install Spotify and because it's much more complex. but that not to say that we won't be working on it. So it's definitely going to become easier. It's going to become more easier to see how your node performs, what you need to do with it, and that's also, like I said, some of that we will be able to see literally next week. So
yeah,
really cool.
but the cool thing is with V6 as well is that doesn't really preclude for people to engage with the network where usability is in question. So if you need to have a way for your dApp to work very nicely with DKG, you have that in-browser way of really doing it very, very easily, and will work for you. And then that's what you really require from the usability perspective, right? And for if you want to expose yourself to the infrastructure layer of the network with by putting your tokens to work, quote unquote, you'll be able to do that with the delegation approach, right? So there's definitely ways that enable certain things to get achieved, without really kind of going,
not even having to run a node,
exactly.
But when you run a node, definitely
you should have that. It's better to have people that have certain technical savviness, and it's required as well.
Also, when you mentioned Dockerless, Docker is exactly the tool when you want to make it easier. Like you Docker is much fewer steps needed to install a node. But as we've spoken on some of the dev calls before, I remember Calvin was there. If he's listening, hi Calvin. Yes, we will have a Dockerless basically version that you'll be able to try out. Not too hard to install itself, but it's always like, for me it's hard to say what's hard, because I don't know.
No Docker? How what about the song? Docker?
No, both. Yeah, you'll be able to run both. So you can,
sorry, Amos.
Docker start.
I still think it's funny because I remember in testnet running nodes and there was no Docker like way back in early 2018. So, but it's funny, like
there's
people
always
want to go back to
trade-offs,
that.
right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you can pick. You will be able to pick a Docker and Dockerless version basically with V6.
What rhymes with Dockerless?
I can't say it on here.
This is unbelievably exciting. It's really like OriginTrail. I post all these memes on Twitter about taking the weights off and powering up and all of this. But this is really and truly what we're looking at. This is like OriginTrail moving from that crawling, walking, maybe even running. Even if they're running, now we're flying. Now we're like, this is absolutely just astonishing to see the growth, especially that we've come from, as Ace is saying here, from these initial baby
Funny,
steps.
you still call me Ace till this day.
This is what I'm saying. I still call you Ace, bro. I know you from the way back when.
I know. Me and Amos go way back in crypto.
So yeah, I'm just very excited about the future, and I'm glad that we're both still here for this journey. Look, we're still doing this AMA after so much time, right? So I'm just excited. I do have to move along though, because I don't want to keep you guys too late. One thing I'm seeing here is I don't quite understand the premise for the question, but we have to, make sure everyone's heard. This person says they're excited that OriginTrail has been focused on, real world adoption, but they are asking what are the plans for marketing. Now I see we have a new website. I see we have a new goal. We moved away from supply chain and we're Web3, we're DKG, we're doing all the beautiful things. So I see new marketing, but is there anything you guys would like to share on that topic?
Yeah, I would also add that OriginTrail has been listed on a very interesting exchange, not the smallest one recently. So that's one of the, I would say, marketing advancements we have all are taking part in. So that's fun. Both as well. So these are all like huge successes. So there's a lot of things happening in this space, and what we're right now also trying to leverage is that so OriginTrail has been well known amongst like certain groups of people, and there are certain geographical areas that are not yet sufficiently covered or are not covered at all, mostly within the APAC region, or mostly within the Asian continent. And this is where we assume that there's going to be the biggest, I would say, leap forward, because also there is some interest to kind of improve exposure of the project and of the token on that continent. And as that happens, I would say quite soon, there's also going to be I think a good time to deploy certain, I would say, activities also in the APAC region. And we've been recently joined by a very, very cool guy from the APEC region, and he's also helping us manage things where, you know, he and also then the rest of the team members in the future are going to be able to, you know, do a lot of things and achieve a lot of great things there. So a lot of things are happening. A lot of plans are in place. Of course, there are always a lot of serendipities. Also, you know, with the listings in the past, there is always a serendipitous events happening that you don't anticipate before that, and those actually create the biggest.
Well, someone just brought some Heibrana or something.
Oh, Heibrana.
I'm looking at this.
So long story short, there's a lot of quote unquote marketing activities.
I was thinking also that, you know, the good thing, or one of the best things as well happening is you have partners or people, users and companies kind of, you know, working on
that's
it
the best marketing
that are actually working on marketing, and you can speak to. Yes. I mean, just the sheer potential of what AidTrust is on just one thing that's really deployed on the OriginTrail, but in its own right, what really that is doing.
Yeah,
preach.
No, it's
preach.
I was just going to say that, yeah, because the AidTrust was, I mean, we've done a lot of projects with BSI in the past, and you guys have seen this scan, tremendous success, a lot of still future potential. We're still working on it, right? Future iterations. Training certificates, you know, new countries are being rolled out, but the marketing maybe for those, that particular one has been as pushed out by the partner. But the particular case, which is one of the so AidTrust, right, is one of the, I would say, in pharmaceutical industry, it's such a big thing. I mean, also we've had this discussion around, or I've seen the discussion online. This is all, you know, is this only for donated products, or does it apply to the entire pharmaceutical industry? This is where we start, right? And this is where we start, and you see the campaign around this just starting, and we are speaking already to, because of this campaign that BSI is pushing out, right? There will be more of that coming, to get word of AidTrust out there. And the potential beyond, of course, the exact same thing can be applied well beyond the donor or the donation space, because, and I have spoken to a couple of companies from the pharmaceutical industry that were inquiring about this, but not from a donation perspective, right? From just pure commercial angle. And as we get these things out, this is the best marketing. Not to kind of tie this all up, what I was going to say, this is the best marketing that is done by the partners, and then, you know, when we do marketing through partners such as BSI, who have huge networks and can push this out to their customers, their clients. We've also positioned the technology in those, as you can see that, right? And if you look at video, if you look at the website, the OriginTrail Decentralized Knowledge Graph is positioned there as the core component, very prominently, very clearly. I think we worked on actually bringing, and I think that was quite a good marketing piece from the video. I saw some clips being also taken out. The knowledge graph that represents it's a high level representation, but how the knowledge graph that we're, you know, looking at, or that we're producing through AidTrust actually looks like. I think that was a very, you know, it's a very clear illustration of what it does, what it can bring. And people are starting to understand through these use cases and through this marketing, they're understanding the technology, I think, at a level that they might not have, you know, been able to half a year ago. So this is for me the important component, is like through these use cases, through these deployments, to understand not the technology just for that use case, but also way beyond it. And this is what we discussed before, or what Tomaz was mentioning before. All of these things, the metaverse, supply chains, Web3, it's all in the same realm, right? It's just like in some cases you're querying something in a supply chain, in some cases you're querying data on Brana, right? And what he's been doing for the past 5 years, what his credentials are, and all these things. But it's all the same.
Like Google's used for everything. It's not just supply chain. It's not just this. It's used for everything. You know.
Yeah, and sprinkle V6 over all of this potential, and then you see why this is explosion.
Right. Those people who are saying it's
by
just donation products as well. I mean, that it's alone, even if it's just the donation products, it's massive. Like it's
the companies that are interfacing that, like
Well, I'll tell you right now.
I think Guinnessstache did a really nice research.
Yeah. BSI didn't know. I don't think BSI understood when they put that video out who was going to be watching it. Me. Nothing gets by
me. Also one thing for just donated products, right? Donated products are a market that is well in the double-digit billion category every year, right? So it's not small by any means. So just keep that in.
And OriginTrail
talking about nations like the G7. Who they themselves are conglomerate of nations who also are looking for platforms for donated products. Bill Gates himself went onto a platform saying they can't find solutions that get their donated products where they need to be, and they're looking. So the scale of this one single solution addresses the core pain point of humanity almost every edge of the earth.
And it's not just the established companies which were partnered with, like BSI. They have like access to all of the companies essentially of this world, basically. There is also like organizations like World Economic Forum that are assisting and aiding the trace labs in pushing out these technologies, visibility of these technologies in front of the like biggest pharmaceutical companies. And we also got invited to Davos, but unfortunately, Davos is not going to happen in the beginning of this year. It just got canceled. It's going to take place in summer. But we did receive an invitation also to talk about these solutions in front of the World Economic Forum audience. And we see this as a huge recognition, and also as a result of, I would say, very good marketing. Marketing in OriginTrail ecosystem is multifaceted. It's not only aimed towards like attracting more people who understand the dynamics of cryptocurrencies, but it's also about like what Jurij does here very successfully. And besides that, some other things which are linked to governmental organizations. Just recently, we got selected to contribute to essentially lend the capabilities of the DKG for the European future, for the next generation internet, in orchestra with other solution builders within Web3 in Europe. And that's a huge success. And again, V6 is essentially making way to attach certain components also with regards to the Ontochain project, which we believe is going to vastly advance the way data and assets are managed, not only in the European Union, but I believe elsewhere in the world. So this is another example, marketing, successful marketing there. So whenever we kind of talk about marketing, from our perspective, marketing is like multifaceted. And I'm sure that from the angle of perhaps a community member, marketing can represent a very specific angle through which he or she views the marketing. But it's very important to note here that I think we're quite successful when it comes also to the crypto part of the things. I mean, arguably, there's been some very important successes recently. And in addition to that, obviously, I mean, we're rocking the enterprise space and the non-governmental and governmental space. So I think the ship's moving into a very good direction.
And this kind of, I guess, goes with the whole marketing question a little bit, but not to spend too much time on it. But has there been any thought on staking on some of the exchange platforms? Like I know Coinbase does the earn things where you learn. And someone made a joke the other day. They said if OriginTrail ever did those quizzes on Coinbase, you'd need 50 quizzes just to understand what the project is.
But I mean, we're all about like educating people about OriginTrail, but there's a certain limit where you don't want to spend precious on like just taking campaign, because I mean. The trace token, utility token, is becoming scarcer and scarcer. It's a limited supply token, and everybody's going to be killing to get a hold on it. So why? I mean, you should really shy away from giving it away for free in general. And we're like fans of incentivizing people when they come and contribute to the network. When they, like with V6, you're going to be able to really help us launch the V6. These are the things you want to spend your future dev fund on. And of course, also be mindful of how you can advance marketing efforts, sure. But I would just really like to iterate here that trace is becoming scarcer and scarcer, and it's becoming more precious and more precious. So,
hey, I agree with you. I just read what the community puts in for questions, but I agree with you 100%. So
I think it's a good question.
Actually, before you guys move off the topic of working with these enterprises, though, I have to ask a selfish question here. Jurij, you've been working with BSI relatively closely, if not the point man on that. Really, I personally want to know, what is it like working with the people at BSI? Like, what is the communication like? What is it like? I feel like it's something that is largely not truly appreciated in the community. We just see all these amazing things happen and pop up out of nowhere. But there's a lot of groundwork that I saw for myself goes into each and every single one of you guys' interactions. So what is that? I saw Ziga, I saw Tomaz, Branimir skipped out on me. So Jurij, what is it? What is it like? What is that interaction?
It's weird, and I think this year has been very, very good overall in terms of expanding, our collaboration with BSI across multiple other division sectors. That because initially, right, when we started in the innovation space with the innovation team, because obviously there were new solutions, right? We tried to incubate them, push them out, and this was already like 2-3 years ago when we first started working with them. And then as these solutions became more mature, they become owned by the actual business areas, business owners that work there, not by the innovation team. And we've expanded our cooperation out to a lot of these, business owners essentially that have also through improved marketing, improved communication around what the DKG is and all this, started to understand the value of DKG. And Branimir can also chip in here. Like, for example, when we were visiting in Scottsdale, it was great to see how many ideas now are starting to pop up on their own, right? So what else can be done? What other solutions? And without us even prodding them, because
so they're getting together in their little circles. They're excited.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're the ones coming to you guys.
Yeah. Well, they are the business experts in that sense, right? So once they grasp what the DKG is, what it can do, they are the ones who are, coming up with, okay, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that, because they're the ones who are the business, experts, the topic owners. And we, of course, are there we're the experts on the DKG and how the DKG can make that happen. And that synergy has, there's been a lot of that synergy throughout this year, and we've really brought a lot of things to life that will be, and we're continuing to bring them to life. And new things, keep getting incubated through the innovation team. So I think it's great. I talk to some of these guys more often than I talk to these guys probably, since I'm on calls with somebody from BSI probably every day.
And Dan Prattel's an interesting dude too. When you look at his history, he was originally in criminal justice, and then he worked for Intel as a supply chain security manager, and now he's with BSI and innovation. So he's got kind of a weird background, but it's really cool because
he's got stories to tell.
He's like a Navy SEAL in his realm.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
He's sharp between his ears, and it's interesting the way we met, and when he met Branimir in Shanghai, it was quite a coincidence, but it completely it clicked immediately that the BSI OriginTrail Trace Labs partnership makes a lot of sense. There was even a guy that used to work with BSI that moved to Consensus, and I believe right now is with MasterCard blockchain. And he was the one running the test nodes of OriginTrail when, before that was.
Oh, wow.
And he got impressed. So the guy works with MasterCard now. I think so. Don't hold me by my word. But he said coming together with Dan to Slovenia, that he got impressed with Branimir first off in Shanghai, and then in Ljubljana, Slovenia. Before coming there, they ran the test node of OriginTrail. So they really know the technology in and out, and they understand the capacity, the potentials. And I think one thing to know that BSI is their aim, their mission is to be a focus for the well-being of the mankind. So they are not your typical centralized company, but rather they are owned essentially by the crown, but through the crown they are owned by the people. And I think this complementarity of DNA between OriginTrail ecosystem and BSI is very important here. And this is why also we believe that things are clicking really well with them.
That's really interesting that you say that, because in Puerto Rico, when I spoke to Dan at Akala, his highlight, the highlight of our conversation, mainly from him, was the positive effect on humanity. That was their focus as well. It seems like, I'm just saying, highlighting that the OriginTrail ecosystem seems to attract people that genuinely care for the progress of humanity, be that enterprises, regular people. It seems like it's just a culmination of humanity's goodness.
You are what you attract, and I think it's a very important thing to point out.
And deployment of AidTrust is like a very concrete example of this, right? This is really for ensuring that people get. I mean, there's a case study attached to it as well, and I know some of you guys have already dug up the video of the customer actually talking about this online as well. It's helping people, you know, in need, essentially, who don't have access to the medicine, to actually, you know, increase the likelihood significantly that vaccine will reach them, because that transparency and trust that is generated is what is, you know, scaring away and preventing you know, anything from gross negligence to right out stealing to diversion to not, you know, utilizing medicine in time, all these things. And this is just one example, right? But it's a very concrete example, and it's it's nice. It's also a very good feeling working on this, you know, especially with what was happening in India specifically, where the thing was being first deployed through the COVID situation and all these things, and talking to the guys on the ground. It really leaves also not only, you know, like okay, it's great we're deploying the technology, but also the impact kind of, it leaves a mark. So it's it's nice. It's really nice.
It's awesome that you guys got into all of that. I don't want to take up any more time. We have a little bit of time left, and I know that there's some important things that the community really wanted to hear about. Guinnessstache, I don't know if you want to bring up Ontochain. I know that was a very big
I want to make sure I get to this one in specifically, though,
all right,
because this one I know is, again, the speculation machine runs rampant in the community sometimes. So I like to just get real official statements on some of these things. This may be under NDA, if anything, to it. But is there anything that could be said regards to OT working with EA and NFTs, since Aaron Bradley is an advisor? Because it's pretty interesting, right? This guy's like hardcore knowledge graph nerd, right? And
very hardcore.
And he works for a very big company that happens to be really trying to get into the NFT space, a big gaming company. So you see a lot of good connections here. But is there anything to be made of that, or even anything you can speak about? Or is this strictly just because you have this very knowledgeable, no pun intended, a knowledge graph guy who's very interested in the technology and nothing more?
Yeah, I mean, technology is versatile, but we're not talking, or like we're not going to be confirming or denying anything, because this is only inciting speculation. So what you're hearing about today is like the vastness of the things that are happening, exciting things. On top of that, we are always careful to add or to incite additional speculation. So we're not talking about things, but rather waiting for any partner to start talking about specific applications. I know it's very cool always to kind of sprinkle some fun and some rumor on top of the big companies, which are here, obviously. I mean, all of us are attesting to that. But when it comes to new names, we don't want to be contributing to speculations.
Yep. No, understandable. I just got to get it out there so people stop talking about it.
It's fair. It's fair. And I'm sorry if we cannot indulge the ones who are.
No, it's totally fine.
Yep.
It's totally fine.
They seem to be happy.
Aaron's a great guy.
Amos, you want to move
on? Sure. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about. Well, I think we pretty much beat the horse on Akala and OriginTrail.
Yeah, we're limited time. Let's try to get to some good stuff that we haven't really even touched on.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about this Ontochain. I think Ontochain is very important. A lot of people want to know what's going on with OriginTrail, the next generation internet. You know, in Puerto Rico, I spoke to Ziga a little bit about OriginTrail, you know, being the first technological protocol, you know, a protocol, you know, repeatable outcomes for a knowledge economy. It's very interesting that we are seeing NGI just fall in love with OriginTrail in every branch. Every time we apply, they just can't stop accepting us. Why? Why do they love us so much? What's going on?
The last one, I think, is even more interesting for at least for one reason. When the open call got out, it was like reading an invitation specifically crafted for OriginTrail DKG. It was like, okay, so let's just give them an offer they cannot refuse, and essentially we offered them what we are building right now and what we are advancing, which is the decentralized knowledge graph. And it really sits well with the consortium of Ontochain and the funding organizations, and essentially is about advancing the European future internet, making it more inclusive, and also making it enabling towards the self-sovereignty of data. And what's important here also is that the knowledge economy and the knowledge tokens and everything that we're working on right now, from supercharger to the things that are going to be enabled from the second phase of the V6, are all tying into the Ontochain's mission and OriginTrail's. And there are also some interesting partners within the Ontochain. I would encourage you to go through the
iExec the other day was just tweeting about you guys. We thought it was interesting.
Yeah. We actually met iExec in Ljubljana. They attended the same event where we had Dan Patel from BSI, and you never know like which interesting people pop up at such events. In addition to them, there are also like PhDs, the organizations such as University of Ljubljana, Faculty for Informatics, and those are all very reputable organizations. Along with them, some others. So it's not only OriginTrail contributing its solution or the decentralized web stack of solutions, but essentially we have a plethora of other solutions that are becoming compatible with the DKG. And in the future, there are going to be more open calls coming from both European Commission and from consortia similar to Ontochain. And all of these future applicants are going to have to, in one way or another, take into consideration all the rules and the tools that are being pushed forward by OriginTrail, and adapt and build them on top of DKG. So the potential here is,
I think it's awesome because it's the Ontochain out of all the NGIs as well it was purposely created to as an output create tools for semantic web. And so being focused on that or being kind of included in that is as DKG, and it's also from all the engagements so far, it is the most aligned with the roadmap, if you will, because it's really DKG at the core of what was recognized as the key component to align with the purpose and the vision of Ontochain as a project. So that's really exciting for us. I think it's a culmination in a lot of ways of a lot of the next generation internet work that was done so far already, and then kind of like as this one kicks off, it's opening up again, like Ziga was saying, we're becoming a component that other builders are then taking and creating stuff on top of, and that's really what as a ubiquitous vision that we have.
It's a great pointed out also Tim Berners-Lee phase, essentially the phase that comes after the Metcalfe phase. Yeah. In a way, is getting and materializing now, because this is tying into the things that were supposed to be developed later. But right now, because there is essentially an invitation for the adoption within the European space, we're kind of also deploying the elements of the Tim Berners-Lee phase.
Have you guys ever talked to Tim Berners-Lee? Because it's funny you have a phase named after.
We have common friends.
Yeah, I figured Bob Metcalfe might have talked to him a few times before or something. That was someone's question actually in here. That's why I just figured I'd throw it in as an easy one just to get rid of it real quick. So
actually, we definitely talked about the majority of the things that pretty much people had their concerns around. I think the final thing that really people wanted to know about is the NFT space.
Yeah.
What's happening there? The superchargers. Have you guys heard any other maybe NFT ecosystem projects in crypto reaching out, thinking of ideas of things they want to build? Of course, you don't have to drop names, but if you do want to drop names, feel free to drop all of them.
Yeah, 48 Yacht Club or what? I don't even know what they are.
Right?
I can't even follow all that stuff.
Just name all of them. Yeah, but no, seriously, have you guys been? Have there been any discussion?
There've been a lot of discussions. There've been a lot of discussions. We need to be mindful though that what is happening right now in Metaverse is super exciting, and OriginTrail should be built in a way to be anti-fragile. So whatever is going to survive the hype that's happening right now, and it's great that we have hype, but OriginTrail needs to be anti-fragile in a sense that the Metaverse is going to be the legit game for OriginTrail in a forever, not just in this hype period, hype cycle.
Yeah.
And to that end, we're also building the supercharger, and also through V6 again in the second phase, which is going to enable the tool in a fully fledged direction. This is where I think is going to be more apparent. So who's going to be using it? But essentially, it's about discoverability of assets. So if an asset is not discoverable, and in a way there's a limited discoverability of many of these NFT assets, which essentially is also impeding the value of these assets because they're only discoverable within each respective platform, and Supercharger is solving that. So again, I think similar to what happened to Ontochain, DKG is going to become an offer no one can refuse within the Metaverse space.
And it's from those discussions, there was none that didn't show excitement, like really.
Yeah. We had to curb enthusiasm.
Didn't see
I think
the value.
I think at one point we had to somewhat to an extent curb the enthusiasm in the sense that we don't want to be, just too fast on this one, because we need to get the V6 done. We need to, there are certain things, certain steps we need to respect, and only then all of these cool builders will be able to leverage the technologies.
That's unique.
We have the NFT ecosystem spread across Binance Chain, all these different chains, and we've seen examples of NFTs being launched on Binance, which is just a direct ripoff of an NFT that exists in Ethereum. OriginTrail absorbs verifiable credentials. If we're able to analyze an NFT based on its density of pics, the color density and whatnot, and we create a credential that uniquely identifies this NFT. Well, if that's on the DKG, this one NFT exists in every space at the same time. You can't just recreate it and republish that and resell that. It's going to be, so this itself, it changes the structure of the NFT space. It changes how NFTs interact at the very fundamental level of existence. Just existing, it exists in a different plane. I'm just really excited to see where all of this goes, how people start to leverage the technology. And I think that's why the community is asking these questions. That's why they want to know who else is hearing. Is anybody else? Does anybody see how great this is? Like, what's happening, So yeah, I think you guys answered that really well, really beautifully.
Just something I want to say, ask on behalf of the node holders, just because nodes are getting expensive to run now. So I'm sure that's no secret. If for all these jobs we see coming with V6, do you just even have like a word of advice? Like, what is the chain primarily people should be focusing on if they're running a node and they have to choose because they can't support Polygon and Gnosis now? Sorry, not XDAI anymore. Gnosis, just to give people kind of a friendly heads up, what is your recommendation for, like, if you're going to start a node, what chain should we really be focusing on starting that,
That's a good question, but it's hard really to give an answer, because it's about like predicting the future, what these deployments are gonna look like, and
what's going to be the price of Bitcoin?
Exactly.
Next month.
Well, there is people who want to run it. Well, there is people who want to run a node, right? And let's face it, if you want to run an Ethereum, Gnosis, Polygon, you're already getting into $12,000 to run a node. Now, if we have a Kala, that could be another $15,000. So I think there's some people who want to run a node, but they're just not going to throw out $15,000 to do it. So if they have to choose a chain, are they safe going with Gnosis, or they should wait to connect to a Kala and put their 3,000 track towards that? Like, I guess that's more what we were looking for, because we want this network to grow, right? I think that's what everybody wants. So that being said, I think it's just a kind of a friendly heads up to say, hey, I'll tell you right now, don't go connecting to Ethereum. And that's just me talking. That's not the team. I said that's a waste of 3,000 track.
There is one important thing about OriginTrail here. It's the capacity and also the virtue of being neutral. So whatever we say right now, it's this, it's that, it's a Kala, it's a Ethereum. Mm-hmm. You're being biased. So I know it's sometimes, we expect heads up and stuff like that, but at the moment, we're giving heads up. We're breaking the most basic rules of OriginTrail ecosystem, which is neutrality, not being biased. And it's not an excuse, but it is what it is. And we're gaining a lot by being neutral. We're also gaining options, which is essentially good for, back to your question, what is better for node runners? The bigger the option pool, most likely the better the final solution for each respective node holder. And we're gaining that because of this very virtue of being neutral. And we're expanding on the options. This is something that we can do, and we're doing it. Perhaps not the best answer from the other side, but I think
well, let me ask this: will the $3,000 stake go down? Someone just asked that in the Q&A. Is that safe to say over time that we could see the 3,000 stake go down to something a little more,
But there was a reason for that stake, right? So
security of the network.
Security of the network. It's also it's kind of quite a long discussion, but that ties into V6. So there's going to be, as I said, in beta 2, we're going to be introducing novelties in the incentivization layer. So there's going to be some upgrades there that are going to make things more efficient. So it's going to be a good point in time to look into all of that in a more structured way, because right now it's just like throwing out numbers.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, like it's similar to the 2-click installs. You don't want to necessarily just make a rash decision that might then influence a security parameter. If you have tools to address the security parameter by allowing delegations, by allowing this type of thing to exist, right?
Yeah.
So it's more about really creating the usability tools that allow kind of efficient functioning of the system versus being kind of biased towards changing something that is proven good.
Yeah. So what you were trying to say is sourcing tokens through delegation is one of the things that makes it
how you can solve it, right?
Okay. Yeah. And for anybody who has like technical node questions, like this is never really the platform, go in Discord. The devs are in there and stuff like that. That's a great place to go.
Yes. And you're laying it up for me to say that apart from launching this beta 1 version of the testnet and having the ability to run the node, you will also, part of this being incentivized will also mean coming to GitHub and Discord and sending us your not just feedback but questions as well. So that's I underline that invite because we will be opening up a special Discord channel for all of those running V6 nodes in the testnet, of course later in the mainnet as well. So you all guys and girls, you're invited, and let's jump in. And I promise the team is going to be there and to answer and help with setting up all of the nodes. Maybe just a slight hint as well, because a lot of this will be covered in next week. What the nodes will be doing is actually collecting all kinds of not just regular logs, but telemetry data on each and every operation that it's doing, because the protocol is now split in several layers, not layers, let's say it like that. These layers are also split in different commands, and for each of the commands, we monitor a lot of different parameters. So,
you're measuring a lot of the physics on the
network. A lot of the physics, and then instead of just using what pretty much like usually people use there as kind of a log structure, we're actually going to be using, guess what, the decentralized knowledge graph to get all of those logs together. So your nodes on the testnet will be shooting this data to the DKG, and then we're all going to be able to harness it and get it together. And in this way, we test it even better because everybody gets to be publishing to the network, not just a portion of the network, but literally every node. And the more data gets published, the better your rank. And there's going to be, of course, it's going to be kind of a competition. It's going to be really cool. So
it's like a DKG log file knowledge tender kind of thing going on there.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yes. You're quick. You are quick.
We were hoping to make this clear in the initial statements, but yeah, I mean, Monday is going to be exciting. We're going to launch the testnet. We're also going to release the blog post in which there's going to be in a very concise form. We're going to see what kind of engagements can be expected for every phase. what kind of rewards are expected to be. Like it's going to be a very fun competition. And also what Branimir wanted to also point out, and I'm just going to repeat it because I think it's also very important, is that we want to attract developers to contribute to GitHub, to get activated there, and also in a way to gain some knowledge which they are going to be benefiting from when they are going to have to build applications on the DKG.
Wow.
Great. All right, guys.
Stunning.
I mean, we got through pretty much everything.
It sounds like it sounds like a merry V6-mas.
That was nice.
Tomaz, stick to the knowledge graphs, okay, buddy? Comedy to somebody else.
You can give him some points for that one. You can give him some points for that one.
So, anything you guys want to tell us before we end this? Anything that we missed, or anything you want to say?
Man, it's been a crazy year, since it's like a Christmas wrap up. I think it's
next one's gonna be even crazier.
Yeah.
I've not been this excited since we were launching DKG first time.
Wow.
V6, like V6 is literally it's not.
Branimir, that's a massive statement, brother. That's a massive statement.
It's wrongly labeled, I have to say. From V5 to V6, it sounds like +1, but it's really
100x
plus 1,000. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. Even I'm not ready.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be like, well, we kind of tested the network right now in this, we call it the lab environment when we test it in Trace Labs. And then we open it up, and I'm really curious to see like what type of KPIs we can hit before we break something. Actually, the idea is to break something, just so everybody's aware of the beta is for that. We want to hit some limits so we can see what can be optimized and tweaked, or maybe something hasn't been done well at all and we need to redo it. It's completely normal. It's completely new technology, but though I don't think that's going to happen because, like I said, it's 6th version. And we've been running several testnets locally for a long time already. We've tried quite a few use cases on it, but now it's time to literally throw hammers and axes into it and rocks and see
it's a Grinch time season. So
yeah.
So inviting Grinches.
Let's go fast. Let's go fast and break stuff, right?
I already have it's gonna be a screenshot with our heads of Grinches.
Eye of the beholders already working on it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's gonna post it real soon.
All right, fellas. Hey, well, this was a great AMA. Thanks for having me. I know it's been a while, and I had another kid, so my time's just been so crazy the last few months and stuff like that too. And I know you guys, your time's crazy. Everybody's busy, so it was good we could get together and do this for the community. So
definitely.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, take care, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Festivus, whatever you celebrate.
See you around.
All right, take care, everybody.
Bye.